Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for September 2nd, 2016. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. We just had the non-farm payrolls come across the wire here about 10 minutes ago. A gain of about 151,000 jobs for the month of August. And we saw the markets pop up a little bit on that news. Right now, despite that pop up here, we're still in the center of this larger range here, and we're just kind of chopping around. There's really no edge to be seen right now, really since early July here. Ever since we got that breakout through the top of this range here, we really haven't seen a whole lot to do. There was one time up here where we called a false breakout and a likely drop, but other than that, it's been sideways and not a whole lot to talk about. We really have to continue to be patient and let this thing build out ahead of a potential move to come, because all of this sideways activity is pent up energy that will likely get released very soon. Nothing really to see on the intraday time frame, so I'm going to go over here straight over to crude oil. Here's crude oil. This is a daily time frame. One thing that's important about this time frame is that yesterday's selling pressure led to a move all the way back to 43.03. And I gave a lot of downside targets yesterday for our traders, but perhaps the farthest lowest one was 43.03. And that's a key level. That's a key level. That's why we used it. So if we look at this back here, here's the key range, here to here. And this is the 50% expansion of that key range. And so, and given it up 45.91 a couple of days ago, the expectation was that we could see a move into 45 and perhaps across it. But if we start to really get going, we have 43.03 on the bottom, and that was our low yesterday. Very nice push into that zone. 50% expansion point from the edge of the key range, which is here. The next major levels down, we have 42.60 as a short-term key level, 42s. And then you have your next major key levels down here, 40.15, 40.30. So nice little edges of support on the way down. We really let it go here. So I would say any pullback, any bounce, especially into 45, could be a selling opportunity for a continuation downward. Right now could be a digestion day after a very aggressive 5-day sell-off. So we could begin to see kind of a fade the highs, fade the lows type of thing play out here short term as this thing digests or perhaps pulls back after the recent slide. Let's take a look at the intraday time frame. So here we are. One thing about the previous session was we had trended lower significantly. Price bounced up. At the time, actually hit VWAP and then sold off significantly. Never really recovered. And again, 43.03 is right there. That's 43s. And ever since then, price bounced. And overnight after hours trading, we got a pullback here. That's the overnight pivot range. And then we've continued to climb higher right now. So that's a pretty significant little reversal here. At least short term, you can kind of see the lower trend line and the upper channel developing. So right now we do have a little bit of a sideways to up feel to this thing. Again, 43.53 is the previous session's close. Right now, that's the major level where all the action is happening. So that's the pivot to watch. 43.53 is a zone for bulls to continue to defend. Failure to hold that level opens up a major wave downward. The next major target below could be those 42s. So that could be the next major level with a scaling point at 42.60. All right, let's take a look at gold futures. Gold had a pretty aggressive reaction to that recent news here, but we'll start off with the daily time frame, because in the daily time frame, something we've been looking at, something we had our eye on yesterday a whole ton, was watching how price was going to respond around our 1306 to 1310 zone. I mentioned on the last day of August the fact that our low was right here. That's the previous month's low, and the first trading day was just right there. I thought that we could go down there and peak below this low. And that was another opportunity to hit 1306. It actually hit it just below it, I believe. So it got right to that level and then bounced. And then here in overnight trading, right after, this is actually pre-market, I believe this was right after the NFP report. We got a push right into 1307.60, and now we've rallied and are currently sitting at 1330 after topping out about 1334s. That's a huge move. That's a huge move, but this goes back to what we talked about just days ago, that we didn't feel good about this hold right here. After this day, we thought that we might see more weakness, and that patience has paid off into 1306, 1310. We also talked about the fact that there's been slow reversals off this zone, so it could be 2 or 3 days here, and it did. It took about three days, 2.5 days, and now we've seen a big push here. The fact that we've gone through 2-day highs, and now you have this stops run day go through those highs, and the midpoint be at or beyond them is very healthy. That tells you that a return to 1320 to 1318 could be a buying opportunity for the next potential advance. Remember, from the top, we talked about 1306 to 1310. The next hold could lead to a rally back to 1365 to 1370. So a little bit lower highs here recently. So we're not shooting for 1370 to 1380 this time. We're going to bring down the target zone just a little bit. 1362 half, the 1370 is a good zone to look for the next bounce up to this area. All right, let's take a look at the NQ now. Here's the NQ. Again, this one very similar to the ES. Sideways pattern. A lot of sideways activity here. Not a whole lot of action. But we could begin to see that volatility come back here in September, especially if we can get a break out of this range, because after going sideways for this long, once we do see expansion at either edge, we're going to see some significant movement in that direction. Right now we've had rejections below 47.60. I mentioned before that 47.60 is a very important level that bulls wanted to keep bid. Price got below that two sessions in a row, but those late bears were trapped and we've seen rotation. So that typically implies a move back toward the top. Anything above 48.20, you have to be careful because we've seen significant rejections above those prices. That could be an indication of another wave down. Lastly, let's take a look at the intraday time frame. Right here, pushing up through 47.90. You can see the initial 47.60 right here. Price got down, and right here we saw this new low come into play right in the trading room. You have that low, you have this low, and right when it happened, we switched over to the PivotBoss oscillator and said that looks like divergence, a bullish divergence. We should see some strength. We got a very nice push on the first move, came back. Here's a retest of that previous low, and then you rallied big time back to the previous week's close. So a very nice sequence. We saw the low of the day yesterday based off bullish divergence, and that failed new low, and that helped us. Ever since, it's been higher. We're back at 4,800 now for the day. You can see the pullbacks and then the expansion. So right now I would anticipate that all pullbacks back toward 47.85 to 47.87 could be buying opportunities for a continuation higher. We could be looking at a move back toward 48.20, perhaps even beyond, but not looking for price to stay above 48.20 for long. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this plays out the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and happy Friday.